Hello, lacrosse friends, and welcome once again to Inside the World of Box Lacrosse. It really is the world of box lacrosse this time. Adam Levy is in New York, where he generally is. I am in Radotin, section 16 of Prague in the Czech Republic, here for the Alice Rebeski tournament that starts tomorrow. As I speak, the Victoria Leprechauns, a new team to the tournament, are practicing down below. They've got Pete Kubensky in net. They are in the silver group, because they're a new team, so they have a heck of a group. There are some brilliantly difficult silver group teams. I am Stephen Camp, and we are here with ITWOBL. It's going to be a bit of a different show this week, I would imagine. We're trying to make things happen. I was yesterday I was in the Paris airport.
Tell everybody where they can find the Rebeski game so they can listen to you call them.
Yeah, just go to, you can find the website and check all the schedules and scores and everything at ahmemorial.cz or CZ if you're in America. And the YouTube channel is the LCC Radotin YouTube channel. There's a playlist for the Rebeski. The draw for the groups is already up. And the first game is at 8:10 a.m. tomorrow morning Czech time, which is 2:10 Eastern time. And that would be actually tonight on the West Coast. Wow, you get your head kind of wrapped around that. Anyway, yeah, it should be a lot of fun. I'll be calling a bunch of games. It's going to be a blast, and hope everyone can check those out and follow those.
And so just a quick note, Stamper, for people who are tuning in and who will see this as recorded, you will be there for a little bit. So as a programming note for next week, what should fans expect?
Yeah, I don't. So next week I've got Monday and Tuesday off, I think, and Wednesday off. Maybe there's some time between the tournaments. So because I'm staying here for E-Box and She-Box, which is next weekend. So I think we can maybe go normal time-ish, Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. That's the plan. I'll see if, I might, who knows, we don't have to see a castle. We're going to have to change it. Anyway, we are going to take a look back at the final week of the regular season. We're going to look at the playoffs and kind of see what else comes up, right?
Yep. As always, the banter is going to be involved.
So we're starting with last week's games, and it wasn't probably the most exciting. Everything was building. There's so much excitement coming down the stretch of the season with the push for the playoffs. It wasn't a weekend filled with thrilling games for the most part. Mm-hmm. We had some blowouts, Saskatchewan over Ottawa. When Ottawa was close and then found out, I guess, partway through the game that they were eliminated from the playoffs.
Yeah,
they seemed to slow down pretty dramatically.
And Saskatchewan let Ottawa know, and it got under Ottawa's skin. At least that's what they were saying on the broadcast, and you did see it getting a little chippy. So that was interesting sportsmanship.
Interesting. So what game stands out to you from the weekend? I think personally, the Albany San Diego game that was a win and you're in, losing you're out for San Diego. Win and you have a chance to be in, losing you're out for Albany. It was a great game, terrific goaltending. First half, Doug Jamieson was most of the first half until right down by the end. Doug Jamieson was great, and then Chris Origlieri really turned it on in the second half.
Yeah, the second half was phenomenal, and I think you're spot on. I mean, that was the game of the weekend. So much riding on that one, and then also just the way that it came down to the end. Westberg leading his team once again. I know that sparked Cooper Perkins, San Diego play-by-play announcer, to say that he thinks that Westberg is his MVP winner. So we know who he's voting for the MVP. But
how do we feel about that? Not about him announcing. I'm fine with him. But yeah, Berg, I think he's in the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's valid to say that when you look at the impact that he had on that team in terms of the goals that he scored and the plays that he made, San Diego wouldn't be where they are without him. The question obviously is, how do you value that kind of impact that he made with, let's say a Jeff Teat or a Connor Fields, where the team did better and the players had better statistical performances. But I think it's a great point to bring up, and it obviously sparked a ton of conversation, which is what we all want in this world, and it's why we have shows like this.
Yeah, I think Berg has been fantastic for them, and I was looking it up. They had a bunch of 1-goal games this year, 1-2-goal games. He scored the game winner in every one, like 5 or 6, right? Like crazy. I just think when he's 47 points behind Dane Smith for the scoring title, that's a big difference. Those are pretty valuable points. that Dave Smith and Josh Byrne are putting up.
So that actually reminded me, because I did look it up and I had tweeted it out. So the last player to have less than 80 or less than 90 points in a season to win MVP was Jeff Shattler, 2011. I wasn't covering the NLL at that time, Stamper. I noticed that season Ryan Benesh had a great year and Jeff Shattler was outperformed statistically by many other teams. Mm-hmm. Why did Jeff Shattler win that year?
It's interesting. I mean, he was really good. I mean, he had a great season. The funny thing is, he also won that year the Transition Player of the Year, right?
Right.
So he wasn't playing transition. That's the thing. He had been playing transition. That had been his role, like Dane Smith and Mitch Jones and so many guys. He started in the league in transition, but then he actually switched and became a forward that season. So I think, honestly, some people were still thinking of him as a transition player and thinking, what do you have, 77 points? I got to look it up.
I think it was 75.
75 points, yeah. And he would go back and play the odd shift, but he definitely moved to forward that year. So I think people were like, oh, transition player with 75 points and 30, here, I'll pull up 29 goals. And he was great. Like, he was a driving force for them.
Right.
I thought it was a bit of an odd one.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly.
So let's just take a step back. Are you saying that there was an error in the awards voting?
I'm saying that it used to be even more so than it is now, that the determining factor of whether a player was a transition player and was eligible for that award and things was if there was a T beside him on the roster.
Right.
I'm not even kidding either. Like, that was it. Like, you could check with the league at the time. Somebody did check with the league. Yeah. Brian Shanahan actually asked the league, and they said, "Oh yeah, if there's a T beside them, then."
Well, it is an interesting parallel to this year because you had Courier playing forward, you had Ian McKay also up front, and a bunch of those guys. So interesting that just happens to be in the conversation as a parallel.
Yeah. So speaking of interesting and positions tonight, I don't know if you noticed on the balloting for the balloting for the NLL, the league's awards, Adam Poitras is nominated for Transition Player of the Year.
I did see that.
Yeah, and that's interesting. That's not actually a bad call. Like, I mean, he's not going to get. He's not getting one of my votes for transition player. Right. There's so many good transition players, and I do think of him as a forward. But he certainly played the first game at the back door. He played shifts back there, and he has got some Zach Courier in him, right? And he just makes it awfully difficult for teams to get out of their own end. So, I mean, Poitras, I'll tell you, he's on my ballot for Rookie of the Year, no question.
100%. Yeah, and I think that it just speaks to the value that he gave to his team. So really cool to see that. And I don't think there's ever been a rookie that has won 2 awards in the same year. I could be wrong in that, but
I don't think so. And I don't think he'll be this year.
In 2022 Defensive Player of the Year as well, did he? I don't think so. No. Yeah, so that would have been a guess of mine just because his rookie season is phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking last year, like, Owen Grant could have been in a couple of them, right? But he didn't win either one. So
Well, see, Stamper, it only took us a few minutes, and we've already strayed into our tangents. Were there any other games from last week that kind of stood out for you?
I thought Buffalo, Georgia was an interesting game. I really enjoyed, like, just seeing how we've talked about Georgia being so inconsistent, right? Like, you just don't know from game to game, week to week, what you're going to get, and from quarter to quarter, right? I mean, talk about the game of runs, as we always like to call lacrosse, and they were huge. Like, I'm trying to think, there was two instances where a team scored 1 goal.
Yeah.
3. Georgia was down 10-6 in the third quarter. Started coming back. They get the last 6 goals of the game. They win 14-11. What a huge finish. Huge turning point was Jacob Hickey on a terrific transition goal. Just an outstanding play where just watching that play, his awareness to jump on the ball and take off. He wasn't at the top of the formation. He was back in the defensive zone, right? And he takes off and gets up and gets that ball and just goes and has somebody coming at him. And you can tell how he was absorbing everything, like where everyone was. Is this a good? And it was a good shooting attempt, and he buries it for what turns out to be the game-winning goal. Georgia, of course, last year goes to overtime with Buffalo in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
I would not feel super comfortable being Saskatchewan. And Saskatchewan could beat Georgia by 10 goals in the quarterfinals, but Georgia could win that game. And until it gets late in the game, and if I were Saskatchewan, I would not let up if I got a lead. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I mean that was I think kind of the thing there. I mean, to be up 10-6 if you're Buffalo, and then to have Georgia do what that is. I mean, consistency. You hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's the word that we literally have been using for the last 2 seasons. I did just want to quickly mention, because I totally forgot when we were thinking about other topics. Because the Toronto Rock will not be in the postseason this year, I just have to give a huge shout out to Troy Holochuk for his weekend that he had, because that was phenomenal. And I'm not saying it creates an interesting wrinkle in the off season of what Toronto does for their future. But, that was a weekend where he really proved himself. Only the second goaltender in NLL history, Stamper, to have back-to-back 50-plus save games on back-to-back nights. Truly spectacular. The only other one, can you guess it?
I was going to say Matt Vince.
It is Matt Vince, of course. Okay. He does everything. So
yeah, and he likes facing shots. He's always faced high volume shots, right? Because he's fine with facing shots as long as they're coming from where he wants.
Right.
So so that makes sense. Plus, he's stopped 1 million shots in the league.
Yeah.
Wow. So I think it goes back to the future. I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't be talking about that in the recap, but I think they go back to the future. I think Nick Rose is coming back, and I think Troy Holochuk backs him up. But I think they're ready. I think Holochuk has shown that they're ready for the next steps as necessary when Nick Rose decides he's done.
Yeah.
Or they decide for him. I guess not that many players get to decide when they're done, really, eh?
Right. No, but it's interesting. Yeah. I mean, we've seen some backup goaltenders in this league who have said, hey, maybe look at me as a starter, teams that need a goaltender. So during our
let's talk about that now. Because we've talked about last week some. You say that, and I'm thinking the obvious ones that stand out to us are Deacon Knott and Thomas Kizek, Riley Hutchcraft.
Yeah.
Greg's going to say stay on topic. No.
I think we covered the ones that we felt needed to be covered. Although I will say that I think some of them, like in terms of Calgary's performance this weekend, I definitely want to touch on that as we look at the games this weekend. So I think that
let's do it. Let's finish.
Yeah.
Let's go. What do you want to talk about Calgary?
With Calgary, I think first of all, again, like we were talking about Troy Holochuk, Nick Rose came into this club. He was brought in to be that guy, to be that stopper. Was excellent when he needed them to be. Calgary really is being one of those teams that is very, very dangerous. The continuing progress, or not progress, but the continuing success of Curtis Dixon, unbelievable. But so many other interesting players. And actually, when I was doing the write-up and kind of diving into things, Stamper, for our for GM of the year, for our finalists, really thinking about some of those other guys, Tyler Hendricks coming in, and really I think was underrated in terms of what he was able to achieve. There's a lot of young talent, Bennett Smith on there, really talented guys that are very capable to do a lot, and I think Calgary might cause some problems in that first round.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be interesting. I think anytime you have Nick Rose back there, you have a chance. Now, the funny thing, of course, they go out and get Nick Rose, and he hasn't had the kind of playoff success that he's had in the regular season, and that's the thing people talk about. I know Toronto fans will be like, well, we haven't won with Rosie. Maybe we try the next guy. And I always caution people, like, be careful what you wish for.
Right.
Don't move on from a goalie like Nick Rose.
Yeah.
Before without some serious thought. Like, you just don't. There's no guarantee you're going to be in the situation that Rose put you in, and then your new goalie is suddenly going to put you over the top and you're going to win the championship. Because Rose has been a big part of their success over the years, even if the playoffs haven't gone quite the way they would have hoped.
Wouldn't it be such an exciting redemption for both Rose and for Chiliano if they can prove themselves in this year's playoffs? Could this be the year of those goaltenders who have gotten overlooked or haven't had that success, and they finally overcome that hump? And let's be honest, the teams that they are facing, there isn't one team anymore that I feel is for certain going to win. And if you're facing a hot team and a hot goaltender who's already shown that they can be so good, it's going to be interesting.
Mm-hmm. And of course, you talk about Calgary and how they could do some damage. They'll be facing Halifax, who last weekend, I mean, what a game they had against Toronto, where it was really tight, right? That was a close game. I know you look at the final score and you think, well, that's a blowout. That was fine. It finishes at 16-9, but that was a heck of a game for quite a while. And Halifax can be dangerous. And speaking of backup goalies, that was Drew Hutchison playing in net that game, and in a game that was pretty important for Halifax to win. Like, they're not just throwing right there to get some game time. They felt like they have a chance to win, so they've got him and Warren Hill. I don't know if you have a backup there anymore, if they're just a 1 and 1A. But I mean, we've obviously veered back a bit into the goaltending, but
Warren is not going to be at the game this weekend, according to sources we heard. His grandmother had passed away, so unfortunately, or his mother. I'm sorry. Unfortunately for Warren Hill, he won't be there.
Related to Warren and their family, Cheryl is a rock of that community, and I'd forgotten about that. So that, I mean, that's a tough one, right? So
he's not going to be there this weekend as well.
She just passed away yesterday, I think.
Oh my!
I mean, I was traveling, right? So my timeline was a little off, but so I guess they'll be having ceremonies this weekend, and that's too bad. That's obviously, there are things more important than lacrosse games, even playoff games.
Of course. Well, thoughts and prayers to the whole family, and hearts go out to them. So that is that's everything for this first section. It's hard to move on from that. We'll wrap up the first section with our best wishes as Knowles is going out to the Hill family and the whole community in Six Nations, where we know Cheryl was very important to so many people. So our thoughts are with them, and we will take a break, and we'll be back to talk more about backup goalies and other things right after this on Inside the World of Box Lacrosse.